This example, we're going to be creating a calendar event. So go ahead and go into your editor. And for here, we're going to be creating a custom function, and it's going to just create an event. So we'll call it makeEvent, the function name. And what we want to do is we want to select the calendar that we want to use. So we need to specify the calendar's ID. And you can also use the default calendar, or you can specify an ID. So this is my calendar that I'm using. I can go into the account that I want to select, and then sharing and settings. And then if you go down to get the calendar ID is going to be the email address. So going back and selecting the calendar ID. And in order to select the calendar object, so actually I'm going to rename this to ID. And then in order to select the calendar as an object, we use the CalendarApp service, and then we get the calendar by ID. We can also get the calendar by other parameters as well as the name. So let's double check and make sure that we've got the calendar object and that we're ready to interact with it. So run the code, and there we've got a calendar object. So you can also use things like the default calendar, and there's a number of other options that you can use in order to select your calendar. So now that we've got the calendar object, let's go ahead and we're going to create an event. And that uses the calendar object and create event. And there's some other options here. We can do an all-day event series, event series. So this one we're going to be just creating a simple event object. So we need to have a title, a start date, and an end date. And selecting those, so just give it a title, and we'll just call it my name there. And then we want to create a new date object, so we use new date format. And then within here we can enter in a string value for a date. So let's set it as March 10th 2023, and we'll start it at 9 a.m. So it's 0 0 0 0 0 to get 9 a.m. And then we're also going to do one for the end date. So these are just requiring date values. And you can also, to clean this up, you can set this up as separate variable values. So I'll show you that as well. So here we've got the date object, and let's run the code and we'll see what happens. So we're trying to set a date for March 10th. So there's our date, and there's our new object that we've created. So let's go back into the script. So you need to have a start date, and that's going to be the first parameter here. And here we can just enter that in, and then update this to the variable name. And we can do this as well for the end. So this will just make it a little bit cleaner and easier to read the statements. So set up a variable for the end. And this will do the same thing as we just saw, where it's going to create the calendar event.